In this three-part video series, I'm going to share the techniques that I use for processing my bear at home. One of the things about processing the bear that's most important to me is processing the entire bear. So one of the videos will do front shoulders, one of the videos will do hindquarters, and then the third video I'll show you how I process the rest of the meat on the bear. This video on processing your bear at home will likely be very different from anything else that you're going to find on YouTube or anywhere else. But I promise you, if you're willing to put in the time and a little bit of work, you're going to have a result that you're going to be excited about taking every part of that bear home with you. So let's head to the cutting board and get started. My name is Timothy Broche. I believe it's a suffering for what you take that is the true measure of a trophy. My style of hunting and fishing takes me beyond pulling the trigger, pushing my mental and physical capacity to enhance the experience of the harvest. The water and woods call to me. We're getting close to finishing up Preston's bear, so he's working on the second hindquarter. And you can see I've got the front shoulder, so this one's a little bit different. The process is going to be the same, but as I mentioned when we were working on the hindquarter, that there's no bone that directly connects the front shoulder. We got a little bit of bloodshot meat. Preston's bullet clipped the front or the back of the front shoulder, so I'm going to cut that out. But all this silver skin, any fat that's on here, if this was a fall bear, there'd be tons of fat on the outside of this. But we're spring hunting this year, so all of this white, kind of fatty, tissuey stuff, and then the silver skin is this stuff under here. But all of that needs to come off. So I'm just going to start whittling away, making sure you get all the hair off of this, get the bloodshot meat out of it, look for any bullet fragments or bone fragments, make sure it's cleaned out. The front shoulders on bears have a lot of really small muscle groups. The lower part of the leg, the hock, same as a hind leg, has two bones, just like we do, in the lower part of their arm. So there's lots of little tiny muscles in here. So this is something I would use for Preston, we're just gonna sausage it. But I would take this off at the joint and maybe throw it in the pressure cooker for hour and 15 minutes. Get all the silver skin and connective tissue cooked out of it, tenderize it up, and then you could use it for stew or sandwiches or whatever you wanted to do. And the pressure cooker, definitely going to kill any parasites in the meat. So if you're worried about trichinosis, pressure cooker is going to do in an hour what you would take probably 12 to 14 hours in the slow cooker. And you're going to get a better result too. Okay, so I'm partway through the front shoulder here, so I've already started taking some of the muscle groups off, but it's a good place to kind of check in. So some of these muscles cross over the joint from both sides, so you can we're going to cut through this and just remove the hock from the upper part of the front shoulder. So usually what I do is just cut that loose, and then you can move the joint and kind of see what you need to take loose to do that. But as you're going through this, basically all you're doing is just separating the various muscle groups so you can get all the connective tissue out from the inside. I got a little bit of bloodshot meat there, clean that off. So you're either taking the muscle groups apart, or where the shoulder blade is here, you're just gonna take your knife and just follow that bone. With this going into sausage, you don't have to be over meticulous about getting all the silver skin, but if you're going to use this for anything else, you want to take a little bit of extra time and try to get as much of that silver skin out of there as you can. But we'll go ahead and finish cleaning up some of this fat and silver skin connective tissue out of here, and then finish deboning. We're going to take the hock off the rest of the leg, and then we'll debone that. And don't hesitate to wash these off in water. Like you can see, this one's got, maybe you can see quite a bit of hair on this. We had to quarter these up in the field and pack them out. So got some dirt on the lower part of the leg. But I'm just going to, once I get this disconnected, to make sure I've got all the hair and everything off this meat, I'm just going to take it over to the sink and wash it off in cold water. Most of that hair and debris and stuff will rinse right off. May have to clean some of it off, but won't be a lot. Working my way through the front shoulder here, and I just showed for deboning this for sausage, just follow the bone up around some of these smaller muscle groups to get it off. But if I was going to keep this piece, this shoulder blade piece, for roast or stew or whatever, cooking in the pressure cooker, which is my chosen way to do initial cook and tenderize stuff, I would leave it on the bone. Cooking it in the pressure cooker with the bone in, you're going to get a lot more of that kind of gelatin type stuff in there, especially for stew. Really gives a good consistency and flavor. So I would just take this apart at the joint and leave that in one whole piece. If it was a bigger bear, you might have to split it in half, portion size it out, but I wouldn't worry about deboning it. I would leave it right on the bone and cook it. But we're making this one to the sausage. Obviously we can't grind it with the bone in, so we're going to clean it up really nice and debone this entire thing. Okay, so I got the front shoulder all deboned, so you can see a little bit of the anatomy on this front shoulder. Bears have two of these ribs that go across the outside of the front shoulder. Like a lot of ungulates just have one. But we got this cleaned up pretty nicely. So now I just got to go back and trim, clean some of the silver skin off of this. And then the hock, get that cleaned up, and we'll be just about done with this baby. So one of the little tricks with getting the silver skin off on pieces like this, or whatever piece it is, if you get your knife started underneath of this close to one end, and then just kind of tip your blade up towards the silver skin, and then if you just take and flip this over so the silver skin is down, put your knife under here and angle it towards the cutting board a little bit, you can get a lot off very quickly. It comes off really nicely. So, a little hack on cleaning silver skin. Okay, so the ribs are next. And in spite of bear ribs being absolutely amazing, I'm going to debone these. We're going to use the meat off these for sausage. Any of this stuff around the stomach lining that's got, just doesn't look like clean meat. You can just kind of trim that off. Any of this fat, obviously. I do have a really cool recipe for how to cook bear ribs. I'll put the link in the description for that recipe. But other than that, we're just going to do the same thing we did on the other pieces. Going to clean all this fat and silver skin off here, get this bloodshot meat out from where the bullet hole went through the ribs, and cut this up for grinding in the sausage. If you were going to keep these for ribs to cook with the bone in, all you'll do is just saw these through here, split them in half. The recipe that I have is for the pressure cooker first and then finishing on the grill. So they need to be short enough that you can get them into the pressure cooker and handle them around. You probably could leave them whole if you wanted to throw them on the grill, but they're not going to come out where you're going to want to serve them at a picnic that way. Regardless of how you're going to process this, most of this white tissue, or what we call silver skin, needs to come off, whether you're going to cook it in the slow cooker, the pressure cooker, or we're just taking this one apart, all the different layers, salvaging this meat for sausage. Most of this, you need to take it off. It's going to affect the quality of the meat and the taste. The lighting's a little weird on this, but this is the second side from Preston's bear. But I just wanted to point out, and you can see, even though the light shining on this makes it look weird, but this really dark red, this is what we call bloodshot meat. Preston's bullet went right through here, so Preston, you can lift that up. You can see on this side, And you can see that bloodshot meat around there. So you can't use any of that. You need to cut all that out. Make sure there's no bullet fragments or bone fragments in the meat, because it can get pushed way into the meat. So it doesn't matter if it's the ribs. You can see a little tiny hole poked down here from shrapnel or bone or something. Doesn't matter if it's a front shoulder, its spine or whatever. Anywhere that bullet goes through, you got to look for bullet pieces. We found my bullet in the first bear that I got. But make sure bone fragments, bullet pieces, everything's cleaned out really nice. You don't want to bite down on a bone fragment or chunk of a bullet at dinner time. It's a little piece of Preston's casing off his bullet in the ribs of that bear. Good example of what to be careful about. You don't want to bite into a chunk of that. The neck off of Preston's bear. So these can make really good roasts. There's tons and tons of different muscles in here with a lot of connective tissue and silver skin and stuff in between. But if you were to cut this in half, freeze it and cut it in half, and then throw it in the pressure cooker for about an hour, it comes out super tender, and it cooks most of that silver skin out, so you can clean it out pretty nice. But I'm just going to clean this up, take each layer off, clean out in between, and we're going to grind this up for Preston sausage, which is the other way you can use this. So, but you need to clean most of this white fleshy silver skin off here and in between.